It's been about 12 hours since the end of Game 7 at the time that I wrote this script. I've had time to think on it, time to process, to really breathe everything in. And I still have no clue how they just folded like that. There is no amount of reflection or basketball analysis or knowledge or whatever where I could even feasibly find an excuse for this. So while I normally make like a what's next for this team type of video after a playoff loss, I think I'd rather just roast them. So I'm going to talk about what's next for them, but this is mostly just going to be me shit talking. So let's get into it. Before I continue on with this video, if you are new here and you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to this channel for basically daily NBA playoff content. I'm actually going to try and do daily from here on out. And go subscribe to my second channel where I am also doing basically daily playoff content where I cover all my bases that I don't cover over here. It's lower quality stuff, but it's worth it so you can just really get my point of view on basically everything if you give a shit about my point of view. So go subscribe over there, trying to hit 100K, and I'm kind of ish close. Also drop a like on this video, only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. So before I can get to this truly perplexing Game 7, I feel I need to actually set the stage for how this series even got to 7 games in the first place. First of all, I want to say from the jump that in no world was this a pair of evenly matched teams. In no world should this have been a close series, let alone should the Mavericks have come out on top. I don't want to see some revisionist history with this bullshit. I imagine a couple of years from now people are going to act like this wasn't as crazy as it is. No. The Mavericks had no business winning this shit. And Phoenix, by extension, had no business losing. But okay, we get to Phoenix for games 1 and 2 and they take care of business. Maybe not as convincingly as you would like, as in game 1, Luka's 45 made it really close, but also you could have a takeaway that is, well, we managed to survive Luka at his best, so we should be fine. But then we go to Dallas. And look, none of us were expecting Dallas to get swept in this series. However, with Phoenix being the best team in the regular season this year, it pretty much should have been universally expected that they come out up 3-1 in this instance. They at least take 1 game on Dallas's home floor. But no, they lose both games, and worst of it all is these weren't even spectacular Luka games. It's one thing to lose to one of the best players in the league on one of his best nights, but Luka had a fairly below average performance in both of these games. Now, it is saying quite a lot in the case of Luka Doncic that 2 near triple-double performances are underperformances for him, but he shot 36% from the field in Game 3, he had 5 turnovers in Game 4, and went 3 for 17 from 3 in total between these 2 games. And yet, the Mavericks managed to win. Why? Well, in Game 3, Chris Paul and Booker combined for just 30 points. And in Game 4, while Booker was phenomenal, Chris Paul had just 5 points and he fouled out of the game. So things are ugly at this point, but the Suns bounce back in Game 5 and they don't just win, they dominate, winning by 30 points. But Game 6, the Mavericks give the Suns a near 30-point victory themselves. Devin Booker had 19 on 17 shots along with 8 turnovers. Chris Paul had 5 turnovers and shot the ball just 7 times. But okay, we can still calm down here. It's not anything to freak out about yet, right? Sure, maybe this makes me more hesitant in Phoenix than I originally was. A week ago, I changed my prediction of the finals from the Warriors to the Suns because I believed in this team. Maybe I don't really believe that anymore, but still, surely they have this Game 7, right? Neither team has won on the opposing team's home court. Phoenix has an unbelievable record as a home team. Surely they win Game 7, right? The Suns are a better team across the board outside of not having the best player in the series, and they have talked shit like they are that kind of team, so they're gonna win Game 7, right? Apparently not. What I witnessed in Game 7 was without a shadow of a doubt the most embarrassing loss that I have ever witnessed with my own two eyes. I have seen bigger losses. I have seen more embarrassing numbers from star players. I have seen games where the players clearly gave up much earlier or had no interest in putting up a fight to begin with. Hell, I saw the Grizzlies beat a team by 73 this year. But those kinds of losses come from teams with far lower expectations than the Suns had going into this game. The best team in the NBA in the regular season that basically never loses on their home floor in a Game 7 that shouldn't have existed to begin with in the first place, from a team that talks a lot of shit, and I have defended that shit talk, and in a series that they were unanimously favored in for all the goddamn marbles. With that context, this is insanely embarrassing. I'm someone who gets a lot of secondhand embarrassment, and I was embarrassed watching this game. It is the most pathetic loss I've ever witnessed in this sport, and I've been watching for a decade now. And the thing is, it's not even close. I don't even know what to compare it to. The only thing I could even think to compare it to is the Clippers versus the Nuggets in 2020. And the thing is, I've been pretty charitable to the Suns this year. I wasn't in the camp that was like, are we sure the Suns aren't clearly the best team like some people were? Because to me, yeah, I was sure that there were other teams that could beat them. But I picked them to come out of the West when I had originally picked the Warriors. I thought this team was very good. And I did not at all go with the idea that this team wasn't legit, even if I did sometimes say, hey, the lack of superstar makes me question it sometimes. But the thing is, regardless of me even saying all of that, even if you were in the Suns hater camp, even if you were the biggest Phoenix Suns hater in the world, you still didn't expect this shit. You certainly didn't expect Dallas to win this series, or at the very least, not like this. And you didn't expect them to lose by 30 points in a Game 7 and not even look like they cared to be there. I saw a Phoenix Suns fan tweet that like, not even our biggest haters thought we were gonna go down like this or thought we were this bad. And that's true. The most cynical person didn't predict this. Now, I could look at this and say, well, Dallas just outperformed our expectations. And sure, that was the case, especially in Game 7, because holy shit, Luka and Spencer Dinwiddie could not miss. Spencer Dinwiddie lost all of his money in crypto and started playing for his fucking life. But really, the main factor in why this series went the way that it did was the underperformance of Phoenix's two star guards. Now, most of the slander has gone Chris Paul's way, and rightfully so. The guy was awful, but I also feel like Booker is getting off a little bit too easily here. He wasn't as bad as Chris, but he still had some awful games and pivotal losses. He was arguably just as bad as Chris in all but two of their losses, and he was still bad in one of those two, just not Chris Paul bad. But in the case of Chris Paul, I can't keep defending you, dude. Like, I realize a lot of people hate Chris Paul. I don't fall into that camp, I never have. In fact, he's probably one of my favorite players of all time. What can I say? I'm a slut for a good elbow jumper. This is indefensible. In the moment where his team needed him most, Chris Paul was a no-show every time in this series. It would be one thing if Chris shot the ball a ton and the shots just didn't drop, if he went out emptying the clip. I could at least commend him for not going down without a fight. Yeah, he would still catch heat for missing the shots, but honestly, it'd be a lot better than him just not shooting the fucking ball. Remember that Clippers-Nuggets Game 7 I mentioned earlier? Kawhi and Paul George combined for almost 40 shots. They both shot sub 30%, but they at least went out firing. Chris Paul averaged 7 field goal attempts in losses in this series. There is no fucking excuse for that. He just rolled over and died. Let it happen. Now, the revisionist history people looking at this game and then like retroactively saying that he should be ranked lower all time, I think that's stupid. The guy is only gonna go up all time at this point. and this doesn't change how I feel about him as an all-time player. But I'm not exactly jumping in front of that bullet right now. I have seen take after take about Chris Paul or DeAndre Ayton, or even a few about Devin Booker that I'm like, I think we're pushing that a step too far. Am I gonna go out of my way to defend them? No, why would I? They don't deserve it. Dallas certainly surprised me, and they deserve their credit. I actually don't think them going all the way is off of the table. I plan on making a video on that at some point. However, this series was lost by Booker and Chris Paul. All they had to do was show up, and they did not. I could go back and break down how Dallas's defensive scheme adjusted and defended Phoenix really well. And I do mean go back because I was so fucking stunned by Game 7 that I couldn't even really tell you what happened from an analysis standpoint because I was just sitting there with my jaw on the floor. But really, I don't care to look at how this went the way it did. Even if Dallas created some perfect scheme, Phoenix was supposed to be the kind of team that can overcome a hurdle like that. That's what you expect of teams that can win a title. But when encountered with even the slightest challenge, they folded like a lawn chair. Now, as for what's next for them, I honestly couldn't tell you. I've seen some people suggest some really drastic changes, and I just don't agree with that notion whatsoever. Again, using Nuggets Clippers as an example, the Clippers were embarrassingly defeated, but they still came back, not that different, and we're still very much championship contenders and viewed as such. The Suns are still a good team. If they run it back, they will still be a championship contending team. They need to bring back DeAndre Ayton on a rookie max. I realize it's not great that he didn't want to play in Game 7. I realize that's a red flag, but it's still worth doing. But as much of a stain as this is on this team, a championship run is still not off of the table here. But Lord knows, I will be looking at this team funny until they have proven they don't deserve it anymore. So that was the Suns. Seriously, man, what the fuck? Yeah. I genuinely, I still can't believe it as I'm finishing up this video. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and cue the outro music.